Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, we finally have Champion Spotlight for Jubilee, and for those of you who have been following my channel, well, you will know that I was really excited to see Jubilee. She was one of my personal wishlist characters for the longest time ever. And yeah, we have the full spotlight, we have full abilities, and in this video I'm going to be breaking all of them down. I'm not going to read out all of them. Just gonna comment quickly on Prestige. It's decent, like everything else within last year. It's up there. It's not game breaking, but it's good enough, I suppose. She's obviously a mutant class. And before I jump any further, I must say that overall, unfortunately, Jubilee seems kind of underwhelming, at least on paper. Now, I might be wrong, and all of these abilities flow together much better than they look at the first glance. But considering everything I see, she reminds me a lot of Jack of all trades, master of none. As in, there is not a single thing she does that another champion wouldn't do significantly better. Therefore, I'm kind of fearful. I don't see her being insanely amazing. I might be wrong, and maybe when you actually play the character it all flows together and she has much more smooth rotation than it initially looks at the first glance, and she's awesome. In which case, I'm gonna be super happy. But up until I have seen otherwise, I personally cannot kind of like put my stamp of approval on this ability set. Kind of reminds me of a similar issues which Ronin has, where Ronin has ability accuracy reduction, which is cool, but it's not potent enough for anyone to use Ronin as ability accuracy champion. Ronin can shrug off debuffs, but you still can't really bring him in, let's say, in Biohazard, because he can't shrug off debuffs quick enough. And I see a lot of the same patterns here, which is extremely unfortunate. Again, I might be wrong, and it works out perfect, and she might be my favorite champion. Possibly. By that, I'm trying to say that I'm definitely open to be wrong, and there might be some new piece of critical information, like insane base stats or some very crazy smooth animations that come into play. But reading black on white, or in this case white on black, doesn't seem so. And I'm gonna explain why as I break down her abilities. Right, utility Jubilee is able to switch between her 3 Firework colors to focus on damage, power control, and shutting down opponent by lowering their ability accuracy reduction. Sounds cool. Lots of choice options and utility. Purify Punish. When awakened, Jubilee is able to punish champions that purify her debuffs with bursts of energy damage. Now that sounds better than it is, because you don't want opponent to take small amount of damage when they purify your debuff. You want the debuff to stick, or you want to gain some other benefit. What's the best way to explain this is, if you're using Jubilee against, I don't know, Kingpin, and if you rely on that parry stun in order to get an opening and to progress your gameplay, you're not going to be satisfied by Kingpin taking a couple thousand direct damage, especially if the Kingpin is stacked and has 400k health. What you want is your parry stun to land. So it's obviously not bad, but it's nowhere near significant enough to matter in any meaningful capacity. So this line, to me personally, seems kind of a bit useless. Right. Weakness is energy resistance, fair enough. Many champions are weak to that, and debuff immunity, that's also cool. Right, let's go over her abilities. So Jubilee's energy plasmoids cause her basic attacks to deal energy damage instead of physical. Cool, that is decent. I like that. That can be very useful. Plus 1400 energy resistance. And again, this only matters if her base stats are good. If her base stats have crap energy resistance, and plus 1400 will not make her a viable option for energy resisting, let's say. So it's too early to comment on that, but that's not a bad thing. Right, let's start with Fireworks. Pre-fight ability. Jubilee can rotate through orange, pink, and blue fireworks. Throwing light and medium attack rotates fireworks. Now, here is another problem that I find it. Because literally every basic attack you can land on an opponent will rotate your firework. And in the midst of a fight, it can and will be quite chaotic to actually follow which fireworks are on. A good example here is Diablo. Now, if you have paid attention to Diablo, you're gonna know that he rotates his potions only with light attacks, and with the second medium he can brew it or consume it or whatever. And just light attacks rotating is already kind of hard to follow. Now, if you have memorized the rotation, the order of those 4 potions, you can kind of get used to it. But if it's medium and light attacks and every single hit you land on an opponent, it's gonna be tricky to access this piece of utility without extensively practicing and memorizing the order, so on and so forth. So I'm not entirely sure how hard this will be, but there is definite worry that Jubilee will seem very, very chaotic character to play, especially initially, especially considering the rest of her abilities. So that I'm not a fan of at all. I'd much rather she rotates her potions on medium attacks only, or light attacks only, or something that gives you ability to slow down and know exactly where you're at and where you want to be. So we'll see how that works out. Next thing, if a Firework Surge is selected in the pre-fight screen at the start of the fight, gain a Firework Surge, preventing Jubilee from rotating fireworks for 16 seconds. And this Firework Surge is largely kind of like Diablo drinking the brewed up potion. You activate effect, and whilst that effect is active, you do not rotate in between other options, and you just kind of like focus on that one ability. While Firework Surge is active, gain bonus effects when landing a hit or striking into a block based on active firework. Right. Orange, deal 55% of hit damage as a burst of energy damage. Okay, so orange is for more damage. Pink, opponents suffer minus 30% defensive combat power rate. Okay, so pink is gonna let you hit opponents more. Blue, opponents suffer minus 50% defensive ability accuracy. Okay, fair enough. Again, neither of these effects by themselves matter nearly enough for that to be worthwhile utility, in my opinion. Opponents suffer minus 30% defensive combat power rate. It's decent, it's good, but it doesn't make her quite a power control champion. It's quite frankly the weakest of all power control abilities. We have Enervate, which is 100% combat power rate suffer. We have Power Lock, which is all power locked. But this still again gives opponents power, and it doesn't do anything to effects that let them gain power, like Hyperion, like Dragonman, so on and so forth. And 50% defensive ability accuracy. Yes, some abilities will not trigger sometimes when you strike the opponent, but when the opponent strikes you, attacks you, or activates their special attacks, it does not do anything to them. And 50% is definitely not high enough for you to rely on it. Right, so now we have all attacks. While Firework Surge is not active, being struck, landing a hit, or striking into block has a 50% chance to apply Prowess buff, increasing special attack damage by 13% until the end of the next special attack. When intercepting the opponent, this chance is increased to 100%. Prowess is always good to see in champions, but 13% is some of the weakest prowess that you can access. Yes, by the looks of it, you will be able to build them up quite quickly, and that's kind of cool. But it's until the end of next special attack, so you're going to have to redo it every single time. When it comes to prowess abilities, again, we have seen significantly better and significantly more potent prowess abilities. So it's good that she has them, but they're nowhere near potent enough for you to imagine 400k special attacks, for instance. So again, it's kind of like that jack of all trades, master of none. Heavy attacks. While charging heavy attack while in a Firework Surge is active, remove the Firework Surge. Now that's very cool. That grants you some more control, and I have a feeling that quite frequently you will want to exit the Firework Surge in order to access the prowess building, because you cannot do that if you're in this surge. So that is a very, very good thing. I like that. I think that will give you more control of the fight. Now, special attacks. Special one, Somersault Slot. On activation, gain a Firework Surge lasting 6 seconds. So a short Firework Surge. When the last hit lands or strikes into the block, apply the effects of the effective Firework, increasing the duration by 1 second for each Prowess effect. That's quite important because you can gain quite a lot of Prowess effects. Note it doesn't say buffs, say effects, because there is going to be a way how you can gain passive Prowesses again. Right, first, orange. Inflict a shock debuff and consume all damaging debuffs on Jubilee for each damaging debuff consumed. Inflict another shock debuff dealing 2295 energy damage each over 9 seconds. Now here's the thing. Access to shock is good. And for each damaging debuff consumed, inflict another shock debuff. So this is going to be a cool way how to get rid of Suicide Masters. You're going to have 2 damaging debuffs, you're going to activate special attack, opponent's going to have 3 shock debuffs placed on them. That's cool. But the fact that she purifies damaging debuffs only at activation of special 1 is useful, but it's nowhere near good enough to use it against biohazards, morning stars, etc. It's kind of like that Ronin thing again, where you have a piece of utility that's very, very good. It's just not good enough to be practical in a lot of most needed scenarios. But there is a possible cheese here with this effect, which is very, very important, on those energy adoption nodes, where you can get 7, 8, 9 shocks on you that do very tiny amount of damage individually, and you will be able to do a ton of burst damage in return. So that is going to be one of the first things I want to make a video. Bring her in wherever we see energy adoption, fire energy adoption, lightning energy adoption, ice, or whatever they were, because she could potentially do some really crazy stuff there. Also, if you combine this ability with Horseman of Apocalypse ability, where you do not take any bleed damage, you could do some very, very interesting stuff on Caltrops, like get 10 bleeds on you and then activate level 1 and inflict 11 shocks or something. So there is a use, but it's not going to be standard everyday very cool piece of utility that you can rely on. It's more going to be situational and cheesable. Right. Inflict Taunt debuff lasting 9 seconds. Opponents that are taunted have their attack rating reduced by 40% and have 70% higher chance to activate special attack. Remember, all of these 9-second ones can be extended by a lot. So access to taunt again is always good, great. Access to taunt by sacrificing other effects might not be good enough because you do have to sacrifice quite a bit in order to be in that power surge, in order not to access other effects. So whilst it definitely has solid use, I'm just not sure if it's going to be good enough. Inflict a slow debuff lasting 9 seconds, reducing unstoppable and availability accuracy by 100%, preventing the effects of unstoppable, slow, one trigger against neutral class advantage. Now, access to slow again is very, very great. It's definitely good. But let's say we have Dragon Man, who has access to slow on level 1 and a power gain effect, but he's still not recognized as a potent or, well, slow isn't recognized as his key ability because it's on level 1, you have no chance to refresh it, and you do have quite high alternative cost. Now, there is a ton of utility, but again, if you're going to be looking for a slow champion, you're probably not going to go with Jubilee. But it's definitely good. Now, Special 2 has obviously some more bonkers abilities. On activation, gain a Firework surge lasting 19 seconds. When the last hit strikes into the block, apply the effects of the activated Firework. Inflict an Incinerate debuff dealing 4,400 damage over 22 seconds. This also removes special block chance. Okay, so orange is damage. So you get Incinerate debuff. So you have access to Shock and Incinerate, which is alright. Pink, inflict the suppression debuff, reducing the defensive combat power rate by 25%, lasting for 22 seconds. Now again, suppression debuff, just like her ability in pink, is the weakest form of power control. And considering even if you're in this pink Firework mode, even if you have this suppression debuff active on opponent, they have 50% reduced defensive combat power rate, but they still have 100% offensive combat power rate if they happen to hit you, and they also still have full access to their power gain effects and abilities. So it's good, but it's not at the top of power control champion list, let's say. Blue, inflict a concussion debuff, reducing the opponent's ability accuracy by 25% for 22 seconds. Again, you can combine this with her 50% defensive ability accuracy, and you end up at 75%. Which is good, it's just not good enough. Because 75%, you can't rely on it. It's not guaranteed. Special 3. On activation, gain a Firework surge lasting 16 seconds. That's quite simple there. And here is like the key bit. Consume up to 12 Prowess buffs and gain an indefinite Prowess passive for each Prowess that was consumed, increasing special attack damage by 13%, max 12 stacks. Now, this is gonna kind of be a key in the long fight, which is one of, hopefully, bigger hopes for Jubilee, because you're gonna be able to build 12 prowesses, drop a special attack, gain 12 passive prowesses. That's gonna be the bare minimum that all of these abilities are gonna be extended by, and you should be able to double and triple dip in between a lot of these effects. So that is kind of my hope, that maybe individually none of these abilities seem quite worth it or potent enough, but the fact that you should be hopefully able to inflict 2 or 3 of these at a time if you're playing aggressively could work out quite well, because you're going to have 12 of these prowess stacks plus the previous ones, so that might work out quite well. Now, signature ability, each time one of Jubilee's personal debuffs expires on the opponent, deal a burst of 2041 energy damage. It's useful, but again, you'd much rather have those debuffs actually work and stick around. Each time the opponent purifies any debuff, deal a burst of 3300 energy damage. Right. So we do have synergies, which I'm actually not even going to go through, because all of those are quite crap. Only one that's kind of worth mentioning, I think, is Sentinel 1. Jubilee with Sentinel, start each fight with 15 analysis charges for each mutant team member. So if you have 4 mutants and Sentinel, you can start fight with 60 analysis, and you'll be able to get to 100 quite quick. Considering how potent mutant class is, it could be very, very useful. Other than that, most of them kind of suck. Now, if not suck, then at the very least aren't special, needed, or exciting. Right. So there are a lot of things to Jubilee. Access to taunt, access to slow, access to incinerate, access to shock, access to some form of power control, and access to ability accuracy reduction. Does sound like a utility machine. My biggest fear, once again, is that we're gonna have kind of like Ronin situation, where a character can do so many different things, but none of them are good enough for him to be actually used when that thing is needed. When you need shock of debuffs, you're not using Ronin, you're using Ghost. When you need to inflict bleed, you're not using Ronin, you're using Nick Fury or whoever. When you need to reduce opponent's ability accuracy, again, you're using something, but not Ronin. So, I hope all of this flows together. I hope you can double, triple dip. I hope there is a quick ramp-up process. Because individually, looking at it, just don't seem to quite cut it. There are no immunities. There's no extensive power gain. That means getting to all of these effects will take time. Also going to be decent amount of clock watching and decent amount of Firework rotation watching. So I do expect her to be quite hard character to play well, I think. And definitely a bit of practice there. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of possibly slightly disappointed. Again, I would love to be wrong. I would love for all my doubts and fears about Jubilee's abilities to disappear as soon as I see her used, or I get to use her myself. Currently, I'm not too optimistic. But let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think? How good is she going to be? Because she definitely, for me, was a very, very exciting character. And we'll see if Kabam has done her justice. But that is it for now. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. And if you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons. and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya.